First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Next item is the approval of the May 8th minutes. Those were sent out, so everybody could look at them ahead of time. Was there any comments on those, or everything look good for everybody?
No comments.
Nothing.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Minutes are approved. All right, next up is the public forum. This time allows for public comments. I believe we got one person in the crowd today, so feel free to come on up to the mic and take the stage.
Good evening. My name is Davon Lewis. I'm a neighbor of Bob Ewald's, and we're part of an ad hoc committee for the Chautauqua Park and Ridgewood Addition neighborhoods. That's basically the area between 6th Street and 13th Street, including Brook Ridge, Ridgewood, Lee, part of 9th Street, and Orchard Drive and Blackwood Circle. Um, oh, and Parkway. The city presented a meeting back in October of 2022, suggesting that we find out if there's neighborhood interest in pursuing an application for National Register of Historic Places nomination as a historic district. And they did intensive level survey work with a grad student. And, but there is, but first we wanted, before we went forward, we wanted to find out what our neighbors thought about the process. And between the members of the committee, who include myself, Mr. Ewald, also Dennis and Carol Barrick, Helen Jensen, and Stacy Brown. So between us, we contacted every one of the 150 properties in the neighborhood. Now, we weren't able to always make direct communication with the owners, but we at least attempted to do that. And if we weren't, we left some paper, some documents indicating why we were trying to contact them and how to reach out if they had questions or wanted to comment. Of those 150 properties, we received 83 responses, and I think that's been updated in the last couple of days, so there's probably closer to 85. Of those 83, though, 71 have indicated they are in favor of proceeding with the nomination application. 10 have said they have no opinion. They don't either favor or oppose the process, and 2 oppose the proceeding. At least one of those opposing parties has indicated they don't care for the local historic district like there is in Old Town, and they don't want that to happen here. We've all explained that this is not a local application. This is strictly national. So there would not be that kind of restriction. So you can tell that an overwhelming majority of the neighbors who did respond have indicated they're in favor. And we'll continue to update those numbers as they come in or as we get a chance to catch people at home. Summer is, as you know, a busy time for a lot of folks. Then what we also intend to do is, now that we have some of that that feedback, or a good share of that feedback, we want to go to the city council. And I've been in communication with Eloise Sahlstrom at the city, and she suggests we try to get on the September 12th council meeting agenda and ask that we be considered for permission to proceed with a grant application. And the grant would be a matching grant from the state. She estimates that the total project cost would be $20,000. That includes the consultant fee, who would be an architectural historian. The grant would cover $10,000 of that. The city, we would ask, contribute $6,000. Then there would be in-kind services of donated labor, including the ad hoc committee as volunteers. The city, they would ask we would ask for a grant from Administration Services in the amount of $3,800. And that would come up to a total project cost of $20,000. There would be no expense to individual property owners of the neighborhood. And I will be happy to, we're going to send that letter out to the city council probably tomorrow, and I'm happy to send you all a copy of that, just so you can kind of keep track of what's going on, where we are in the process. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is this part of a neighborhood group that you have, or is this just a little committee within the neighborhood?
It's a committee within the neighborhood.
Okay.
It basically, people who went to the meeting in October, they're invited to go. Everyone is invited to go to the meeting. Of those people who went to the meeting and left contact information, then Eloise shared that with me so I could send out an email asking folks if they would be interested in forming a committee to proceed with finding out if there's interest, and then going from there, whatever we do find out. And Mr. Ewald was one of the respondents to that, and then the other people I mentioned were as well. Stacy Brown is a more recent addition and has expressed interest in participating. We are completely open to more people joining us. And we also intend to send out, for those who have indicated an interest and wanted to share their email, we'll send out an update of what's going on. So I'll send the group of emails a copy of the letter that we send to the city council as well.
Okay.
And I just mentioned that it is an ad hoc committee. It's nothing official.
Right, it's not part of a neighborhood organization.
No.
No, mm-mm, no.
I have a
Yes, ma'am.
question. Who will write the grant application for the CLG grant?
That would be the architectural historian consultant who would have some experience doing that. I'm certainly willing to help.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Usually somebody, if you have a
Oh.
historian write that, though, you won't have to pay them for writing the grant.
Good question. I think I would need to defer that question more specifically to Eloise, to Ms. Stahlstrom. And Bob, do you have?
No,
Yeah, I guess that would be a better question for Ms. Stahlstrom.
That will add to the cost that maybe would be upfront for the, although the city council may assign that to staff too.
And that could be.
That's a possibility.
I can certainly ask her and get back to you with an answer on that.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
good question. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just would like to commend you for taking this on, because getting neighbors involved is really important. So that, and it's a lot of work. So-
Right, and I'm hoping with the email that we send out with the letter to the city council, that will then remind folks that we are in the process of doing this, and hopefully there will be more people joining in on the committee.
Okay, sounds like a good job.
Yes, very good
Excellent.
job in contacting people. That was well done.
There was, a lot of help, a lot of people working diligently. So, thank you very much for your time. And I'm sorry, did you have a
Oh, I was
question?
just going to say thank you for sharing. We
All right.
appreciate it. And it's exciting to see the high level of positive response you've gotten so far. That's
It is.
wonderful.
It is. Thank you all for your time, and thank you for serving the city on the commission.
So Ray, I have a question. Should the commission provide any kind of support to city council a recommendation or anything to go along with
I
that?
don't think you can at this
Okay.
meeting because it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, okay.
And from my understanding, the application wouldn't be till next year. Just the application deadline for this year is like
Yeah.
early October.
Yeah.
So what kind of, would the council be taking any action though at this September meeting or?
I don't know if they'll take action at the September meeting or not. I know they plan to give a presentation then, so it may not be at that meeting that they would take action. Maybe at a future meeting. But, and talking with Eloise today, it sounds like the grant application wouldn't be till next spring.
Yeah, it's too late for this year.
But it's prior to the budget process, which sounds like
Yeah, it would be,
that would be.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
Good timing for the budget. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, seeing nobody else for the public forum, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is discussion on the proposed revisions to Chapter 31. Is there anybody that would like to lead off that discussion?
Well,
Mary
okay.
sent out a great summary for all of us, so I might let her kick it
I
off.
suppose for people that are listening, maybe to give a little summary of what I wrote. And one thing I want to mention up front, and I didn't put it in here anyplace, I don't believe, but the committee has been 3 people. We can only meet without the public notice process with 3 members. Susan has been very active with this project, and her term is up in March.
Yeah.
So I would like to get an alternate member so that if Susan and Angie and I can't meet for some reason, need to, that we can get an alternate that can kind of follow along and has the time to put into the committee meetings. So anyway,
That's a
I'd
good
like to
idea.
volunteer for that at
oh, if you want.
appropriate time.
Sure. Good
Okay.
I
idea.
nominate myself.
Good. No, volunteering is good. So, okay, that's, you're the one that
Sounds good.
appoints the committee members, so
Yep.
if you want to appoint Bob, then,
Yeah, so if nobody is opposed, I will motion to appoint Bob as the alternate member for the committee, and then presumably when the time comes to take a spot on that committee, if somebody were to leave the board.
yeah, and I think probably at that time, depending on what's going on, if Susan is off the commission, we might want to get another alternate
Yes,
member.
absolutely.
So,
If you're going to do a motion, you need a second.
oh, do we need to approve?
But you know, I don't think you really even have to have.
Yeah, do
a
I have to motion to appoint
Yeah.
or do I? Okay.
Okay.
In that case, I will appoint Bob to the,
Okay.
I think before we
Alternate.
just volunteered.
We approve.
I just went through the bylaws, but
Yeah.
I think it says in there that the chair
Yeah,
appoints the
cool.
committee.
Yeah,
so-
it got pretty
Sounds good.
tight sometimes. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, okay, well, I have to admit, I've got burnout on this project.
Well,
I am really losing steam, so I think that's, I mean, my memo might have sounded like a little bit panicky, but I think that the main thing, because we have 3 new commission members and a vacancy, that this project is just going to take a lot of time if the commission continues to undertake it. So it's, and I just can't. I can't do the whole thing. I've done this before. I've revised a whole entire city ordinance, historic preservation ordinance. So I think I have the skills to manage it, but there's just, there's going to be writing and my computer skills aren't very good. So, because I don't do it very much anymore. So, so I will need I do need assistance with that. That would be a big help. So anyway, well, this has been a project that's been going on. I said 2021. I think it was actually before that.
Yeah.
The one handout that came in the packet is the very first attempt to go through the entire ordinance and mark it up. So this was done probably in late 2020, I would guess. So that was just one person going through it. The chair at the time had also gone through it and did a markup as well, which ours were pretty consistently the same. We had the same issues and the same concerns. So I think as we worked along and first decided to focus on the certificate of appropriateness procedure because we felt like that's what most people needed to know and to understand if they were in a historic district or had owned a landmark. So that was kind of a big change because we had gone through revising definitions, but none of this was voted on. So it was just presented and discussed. Anyway, then the certificate of appropriateness discussion, we really just started on that not too many months ago. And there were several suggestions, but then, and I put in a couple of examples of what we did. Well, as we worked on that, then we started talking about the sections in the ordinance that have to do with design criteria and guidelines. And Susan and I both had experiences in cities where they have had illustrated design guidelines. They're extremely helpful and very informative and very much easier to understand for people to understand. But the Ames ordinance, which was, I don't know when that was added. I can't remember the date, 97 or something, I think.
The original ordinance?
The ordinance that included the designated districts and, the district, the Old Town.
Yeah, the district.
Yeah, the Old Town District, when it was established,
Yes, and
it was established in 1989.
Okay, 89.
Yeah.
So why it was written that way, I don't understand. It's quite different than any place I've seen. But it's evidently worked since 1989. So, but again, I think the person, Angie, on the commission's had the experience with it. And I think she's a very intelligent person. And I think she had some real issues with understanding it in the process. And I think when we've discussed it at these meetings, we've had discussions with staff on things we're not clear of. And there's, I think, some gaps maybe in making it consistent. So and Ray's been on staff a long time, so I think he's pretty consistent. But when you look at different people down the road, then it needs to be written in the law rather than relying on somebody with just a institutional memory. So at least this is my speaking. This isn't the committee. So anyway, I think my concern, which I stated, it basically is just to ensure that we have the desire and the commitment to move forward. I think there's many things we can do that, many ways to improve it without, some are going to take a lot of work, others not so much. So I think it depends on how much energy we want to put into it. So, however, the other option is to get with city council and convince them that this is something that the city should do and hire somebody to do it. And I don't see that happening, but it would be the fastest way to get it done. You probably could get it done in a year. And I think with us doing it as volunteers, it's going to take a lot longer than that. And another component of doing these revisions is getting the city council on board too, that they realize that it needs to be done. Because if we do all the work and they don't have any idea of what's going on and we dump it in their lap, that may not work very well. So, so I think that's in the May meeting, I gave you a memo of a path just a part of the project to get started. I suggested that the committee suggested some things, and I wrote those down. That's something we can get started on now. But I think after writing this up, I think that if the committee could meet and maybe decide on look at all the options and decide on maybe one or two ways we can proceed, and then have the commission discuss it at the next meeting and decide what we want to do. Because I think it should be in a work program that we agree on, I think.
And that'll be coming up soon. We do the annual work program.
Right, it can, right. It should be in the annual work
Within
program too, but if that specific project is going to be quite different than, it's a lot bigger deal than the usual work program. So,
Yeah.
So yes, to have it in the.
But I think
committee.
that shows the prioritization.
Exactly, yes,
We have it mentioned in our state CLG program.
yeah. So, if there's anything else that you want to discuss in what I stated, or any questions, or we can discuss or whatever.
What's required to get a revision pushed through and then officially approved? Like what's the process? If we said, these look great, now what?
That's a
Yeah.
good Ray question.
Yeah,
Process.
Yeah, well, the commission would decide, what sort of changes you want to have done, and you'd vote on that. And then
Mhm.
as staff, we would put a report together for the city council. With when you get to the point where you're proposing the actual changes to the ordinance, I think what Mary Jo is saying is first you need to check with the council and get them on board with what it is that you want to do and why, because it will involve staff and we have to take our direction from the council. But let's say they're on board with it and you come up with these changes you want to make and you vote on it. Then it goes to staff. We put a report together to put those changes in the report. And then we have a separate staff recommendation
Okay.
to the council and then it goes to the city council. They discuss it and determine if they want to go ahead and have a public hearing and the 3 readings on the ordinance to adopt the changes, or if they want more changes made to the proposed alterations that you've come up with as a commission. They may send it back and say, well, look at this and look at this. But eventually, if they want to proceed with it, then they set a public hearing and have 3 readings, and that's what it would take to adopt it as part of Chapter 31.
Okay.
And Chapter 31 was redone back in 2014, I believe it was, that we adopted an update to it, where several parts of it were updated. That's the last major update.
So,
Yeah.
one thing, the city attorney would be involved in
Yes.
reviewing it as well.
Yeah, the city attorney would be involved as well. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the city attorney would review it before it would be set for a public hearing.
Well, I have a question. So we have a committee that's working on revision,
Mm-hmm.
and then the committee would make proposed revisions,
Mm-hmm.
and would they then be approved by the commission, by
It would have to
historic?
come to the commission for a vote
Right. And
recommendation.
then it would go to city council.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And just offhand, this committee, does it meet regularly or have a schedule or?
Usually we would meet once between each meeting, and
Yeah,
that we did that pretty
Okay,
consistently.
so once a month more or less.
Yeah.
we had 2 big projects going on at the same time.
Mhm.
But we did try to be consistent with having a presentation at each of the
Mhm.
commission meetings, so people would be brought along in the comments and the things that we were providing as recommendations.
Okay, so the commission could approve it piecemeal, this section.
Basically,
that section.
yeah, we needed the feedback from the
Mhm.
commission,
Mhm.
on what we were putting together. And then staff would also provide their feedback. One of the things prior to the commission meeting is Mary Jo would send something over to staff.
Mhm.
So they would have a time to then also comment at the commission meeting, what they saw and some of the things that we were looking at. So, I mean, it was a pretty consistent
Yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah, we tried to have something in writing
Right.
to put in the packet for each meeting. So, the final product would be something like this initial markup, but in the column, there'd be the reason for the change.
Right.
So that it would be either that or maybe that and maybe a chart that would have the different revisions that would have what the old one did and what the new one would do. So that there would be quite a bit of writing and getting the final thing done. But I think as far as what we tried to do before was just to have some issue or some section that we would have
Highlight.
to discuss at a meeting, just to kind of educate everybody and get ideas and that. So I think that's probably how we would continue to do that.
We would take a section like definitions, or we would work on certificate of appropriateness, or were the Secretary of Interior's standards as they were currently You know, it was like a section by in chunks, basically.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we were doing another group was working with the intensive survey. And we recognized that a lot of the information that was coming forward, those houses are not Old Town houses. And obviously, there would be things that would need to be added. But of course, right now, it's not a district or a recognized area, but certainly there would need to be additional information. And
Right. The fact that the neighborhood would have had, or it has the option of having National Register
Or local.
nomination or local.
right,
If they had chosen, or if they did choose to do local, then the way it's structured now, there'd be a whole new section in the
About-
code,
Right.
whereas that would apply specifically to the new district. So you could get, if it caught on, you could have a huge ordinance with each district having all these separate regulations, and there's really, that's a good way to introduce people when you're getting a district, but when you're actually administering it later on down the road, it's kind of, well, that's what the guidelines would take the place of, basically. And that would be something that could be on the city's website. It would be available for people to distribute to new district owners. And it would be very useful for National Register property owners, just even though they don't have the review process, they would at least have that information on what
How to
if they want to
retain
do something.
character.
So it would be,
Mhm.
it would be really benefit.
like that.
That's where it would be really beneficial to have those illustrated design guidelines in helping protect the National Register districts that don't come under our reviews. So,
So our main job is the certificate of appropriateness staff brings to whenever they have an application. And that's one of our primary purposes of the commission is to review the comments and to also provide input on changes and things that people want to do to their properties. And it's a very, and I think Angie herself is a resident of Old Town District, and she realizes that many people, it's just not always. So having an illustrated design guideline would certainly make a lot of discussion easier.
yeah. I copied up, I don't know if I passed this around last time or not,
Yeah.
the one from Iowa City, but this is a type of document that you can go ahead and pass it around, look at. So there are many examples of them too. So, and they can be easily adapted to Ames and our situation. So,
I mean, I certainly support adding illustrated guides. I think that is super useful.
Mhm.
My concern is, as you mentioned already, doing all this work and then bringing it to the council and they say, not interested. So is it possible for us to go to the city council and say, this is what we're planning. Would you be willing to entertain it so that we're not wasting all of the hard work that you've already done and that we'll need to continue to do?
yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
if there's a precedent for setting up a meeting with the city council that would be a workshop type thing, or?
Well, I think it probably worked best to have a memo or a letter from the commission to the council, laying out, like you were saying, Mary Jo, your goals and work plan and some product specifics, like you said in that last paragraph. That's good. And see if they're on board with having staff, spend time on that and having the commission spend time on that. Yeah, it's a good idea before you do a lot of work, making specific changes,
Right.
Mhm.
make sure they're receptive to changing the code.
And we had explored also, Angie and Mary Jo and I, some of the resources that are available to us
Mhm.
through the university,
Sure.
studio opportunities, things like that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of preservation professionals over at ISU that,
Yeah.
Ted, one of our former commission members, is on the,
So, well, and that's also something that would qualify for grant funding. If we wanted to do a CLG grant, they would, that's a project they would fund,
yeah,
is design guidelines.
guidelines.
So,
So the illustrated guidelines are one thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
your mine?
Simplifying or clarifying language in the certificate of appropriateness for our current guidelines.
Yeah, I
That would be
evidently
part of
just
the
stuck it all
ordinance
together.
changes that we were looking at.
Mhm.
And then whether or not what we would need to do about, it just got to be daunting, to be honest with you.
Right.
So,
Yeah, well, and I think we've been concerned all along about how, I mean, it's a major change, and it's a, I think the product, I think the end ordinance will be a lot easier for the staff. And our commission has staff support, but it's pretty limited. So
Mhm.
that's another good reason to get the ordinance changed, I think, because, the staff can change too. So,
Mhm.
um, but anyway, I think that's all.
so those of you who
I
are
had
new
something else on my
members,
mind, but it's
Mhm.
gone.
does this
so.
seem make sense or have questions?
It makes sense to me, speaking for me, can't speak
Mhm.
for Scott.
Yes.
But I think, yeah, the concerns for me come through, not wasting our time and effort if the city council isn't receptive.
Mhm.
And I want to know if you have a vision for the next step with the work that you've already done. Does it need to continue, or are we at a place where you feel the revisions that you're proposing are good and we could maybe move forward with what we have before piling on, working on other sections?
Well, that's a good question. I think before we put any more work into it, as well as how committed the commission's going to be, I really think we need to get a good idea of how city council is going to respond. And how we do that, I just don't really know. Whether we individually contact the council members and the mayor, I don't know. That's something that because when I did the other revision before, I was a staff person doing it, so it's a little different.
Different.
Yeah.
So I really think we need to find a way to kind of start communicating with the mayor and the council
Okay.
on what we're doing and why we're doing it.
But just from the little that I've seen of the revisions, we wouldn't be proposing anything radical, right? I mean, or anything that's even a substantive change as to.
Not really.
No?
There's really no substantive
Right, it
change.
looks
You're
like
not,
it's-
at one point we discussed putting finding a way to put National Register properties under the review process.
Mhm.
That would be a substantive
That
change.
sure would be.
That would be.
Mhm.
But the only thing that I think might be considered substantive is the Old Town District and the 3 landmark property owners, because those sections in the ordinance were written for those, for that district and those properties, that that would be considered a substantive change if we replace those sections with the guidelines.
Do you mean the illustrations?
But with the illustrated
Got it.
guidelines, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be, we can't, the code
It's okay.
would probably, they wouldn't allow the code to have all the illustrations in the code. That would be great if we could do that.
Right.
But it doesn't happen in the zoning code and anything else. So you're not going to have that in a city code. So, but to reference
Mhm.
the guidelines as the guiding principle for changes, then I know that's what they do in most places I've worked in.
Mhm.
It doesn't, from what I understand, that the legal department here felt like it had to be specific in the code to be legal, but I don't think it does. And that's another thing we need to work through. So,
I might bring this up in the commission comments, but I've got more information on education opportunities that the commission might want to look at that might help us in evaluating how we want to present or how we want to do that. So
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I would recommend that we approach the city council, especially if you think that's what we should do right now,
mhm.
as kind of the main person that's really been responsible for this. I mean, not to,
oh no, Mary Jo has certainly taken the lead.
Yeah,
for that.
and there's no sense in us spinning our wheels if it's never going to happen. So,
exactly.
um,
And I'm hoping with a few new members that we can come in and see things aren't as complicated because you've been miring yourselves in it. And so maybe you're already spinning your wheels. And so hopefully we can help you.
yes, yes, that would be very
Yeah.
good, very helpful.
So is there a process then for reaching out, Ray, to city council? Like if I were to volunteer to do this, what would my next step be?
Having a letter or memo prepared
Okay.
from the commission, laying out what you'd like to do as a commission and see if the council would be supportive of it.
Okay. And then where would that letter go?
It
Is it an
would,
email?
it would be sent to the city clerk's office to go out in the packet
Okay.
for the city council and then they could decide whether to place it on a future agenda
Okay.
to discuss it further.
Would I be notified if they put it on their agenda?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the commission would be, yeah. I mean, I could make sure that the commission knows, because what would need to happen is someone from the commission would need to present that
Mm-hmm.
at the council meeting
Mhm.
and answer questions.
Okay.
Just backtracking a little, Mary Jo's memo, she says, or suggests the first thing to do is to ask whether the current HPC commission supports the efforts to revise Chapter 31.
Mhm.
And we haven't formalized that. I mean, do we?
That's true.
Don't we need to answer that question first?
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know if that's really a action item that needs any motions or approvals on really, or
Yeah,
more so
it-
just us voicing our opinions on it. Would it be, Ray?
We don't really have an action.
Yeah, it's.
I don't think we have to
Yeah.
vote. I don't think we have to vote on
Tonight's
it. Just,
tonight's just discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, So I'm not sure you can answer that question until you start going through
Right.
the details of what's already been done.
Yeah.
And then see if the new members support it too.
Mhm.
Lisa, if you put together a proposed memo
Okay.
that we could maybe review at our next meeting with that, and then we would have an opportunity to comment as well. It'll come
Absolutely.
in our, Laura would probably send it out to us beforehand, so
Yeah.
we'd have a chance to look, throw in our 2 cents if we want to. And that would then provide us
Yeah.
a motion.
Mhm.
True.
So I guess to answer that question, does anybody think it's just not a good thing to do, or what?
I support it.
I support it.
Same here. I think from the conversation we've had, it's
You do?
fairly clear that
Yeah, that's what I think too. But yes, to have it verbalized is good.
Well,
Thank
okay,
you,
then the
Bob.
second point, should we do it or should we ask the city council to do it?
To do what?
Revise the code.
At this point, we are proposing that we have comments and information that we want to.
Right.
But I
Yeah,
think we need a little more specific, so ultimately it would be.
I think for my personally answering that question, I think that that we probably pretty much have determined that we would go ahead and do it. That it's not likely the council
Right.
Mhm.
would
I agree.
would come up with the money to do it
And the time.
and the time. Yeah. So I guess the I don't know. I think that first question is the one that was I wanted the most, because I just want help with it. Is basically it, because I don't want to be totally responsible for it. And with Susan leaving in a few minutes, it's like so.
Yeah. I
And
think
I don't know what was the third. I don't have my report in front of me. I don't know what I did.
Educating
with-
the public, I think that's.
Oh, yeah, the
Well, that would be
Yeah.
part of
and yeah, that actually would be part of the, and that's an important component too, that, again, I think if the commission agrees, that's a major component of the project,
Mhm.
and understand what it is, what's involved in that. I
the
think.
whole public hearing process when you change an ordinance. I mean, you have to have 3
Mhm.
public hearings
Yeah.
and stuff, and
Yeah, and
if you can't explain it to a,
well, in one of the options we talked about earlier, as far as education, was just don't do anything with the ordinance and just try to get to property owners more informed on what they're doing, which would be a pretty small group, because again, it's the people that are in Old Town.
Right.
So some of them are pretty well educated in it, and new property owners wouldn't be. So, and that was kind of an option we had talked about early on, just not to pursue the code revisions and just providing more education.
Ultimately, I think what we find out from whether city council supports it is going to kind of tell us the direction that we'll need to go in.
right.
And I think that will, hopefully that helps take the decision, or like maybe the burden that you might feel of the decision, off of the committee's shoulders. If we can get some clarity from them, I think things will be clearer, because it's clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I think that's,
So should I model a memorandum off of the one that you've sent to us? Is this generally what
oh,
you would
you,
want to see in terms of like headings, or?
Was Angie's note, her comments?
oh, Angie's were really good. I don't know if that
Would that
went
go out to everyone? I don't.
No,
know.
it didn't.
not. Okay,
Yeah,
so
Angie had some
there are
really good,
additional comments
Okay,
yeah.
that we'd like you to read.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
I'll send that to you too.
Okay,
And then,
perfect.
yeah, you can include anything you want in the
Great.
memos I've written, and
Great.
And then I'll send that to you.
Yeah, I'll need your expertise because you've been working on this a lot longer. So any edits that you can
It's
provide
good
me.
to have somebody with fresh
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
really-
definitely.
We do. We are ready for fresh eyes and comments.
Great.
Mhm.
Not bad. That's
This
great.
is back.
So, yeah, in the meantime, I think maybe just have a committee meeting before the next commission meeting.
Okay.
And then Ray, can we go ahead and just put it on the docket for the agenda for next time to discuss the
Mhm.
memorandum, to review that and
Yeah, to
comment and
discuss,
potentially approve?
making a recommendation to the city council or communicate with the city council about
Communication, yeah.
Yeah.
what the commission would like to do
Mhm.
as far as chapter 31 is concerned.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
a heads up.
Thank you.
Great.
Cool.
All right. Any other comments on that agenda item? Are we
I don't have
Good.
anything else.
9:31.
all right? Then we will move on to the next item, which is commission comments. Any comments from the commission?
Hello.
You had mentioned one,
Oh,
Susan.
comment? Yeah. Right before summer started, I had begun kind of doing some research on, we are members of the National Preservation of Historic Commissions Alliance. I'm really not getting all those initials in the right order, but I'm assuming we still are, right, Ray? It's something that we pay a membership to.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so sometimes their communication to the current commissions is not really good. It's a small group, but it's very powerful, has a lot of preservation professionals in it and other commissions. And they provide camps and education to commissions. Many of the cities in Iowa, the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines have all done different camps and invited the other cities to do this. I was like to bring to the commission maybe some of the ideas of some of the commission education opportunities that they would provide. Some of them are about doing illustrated guidelines is a very hot topic right now on the forums there, which would be helpful, but also in how to get your message across as a commission, and maybe something like that. I mean, Mary Jo and I have actually worked in professional positions with preservation, but it never hurts to get a refresher and have as a coordinated commission working together, that we all are on the same message and on point with that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to propose maybe an agenda item for the next meeting. I bring some of the commission education opportunities to the group,
Mhm.
and maybe we can make a decision on whether to proceed or how we might want to do something like that.
I think that'd be great.
Education for the commission members or
It would be
education for the public?
It would be education for the commission members, but
Yeah.
it would help us in how to educate our residents
Mhm. I
about
think-
what we do.
Yeah, I think those things that the Alliance does is, I think the one that I saw on Zoom that was, I can't remember where it was, but they invited all CLGs
Mhm.
to it, to participate in it. So while it could focus on our specific local interests, it would probably be open to other communities too.
I've watched a couple of their Zoom classes too, and stuff. I'll just maybe get the more information about what our membership. They're kind of a difficult group to work with, not because it's just they're not necessarily organized that great, as far as administrative, getting the newsletter and membership things. But I'm trying to update among our current members, so that you can receive emails or at least.
I've never gotten anything
I
from
know,
them.
I know. I joined the forum basically so that I
Mhm.
got on there,
Yeah,
a regular, email route. And it's been pretty prolific. I mean, they send out a lot.
they do. They do.
But,
They have a really great newsletter, and they I don't think they have any paid staff.
I don't think.
It's
Or
a
it's very small.
yeah. They have annual conferences,
Right.
but I don't think they have any paid staff like the National Trust.
But anyway, I'll try and bring more information about what our benefits are and what things we might want to participate in over this. And that could also be part of our work program that we'll be putting together here at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm telling you your job.
Yeah. Sounds great.
That's okay.
And I have something if that.
Yep.
I went to that Iowa Preservation Summit. Seems
Yes.
like ages ago.
Yeah, when was that? Back in,
Yes, and it's been, and we've missed 2 meetings, so it was a good conference. I recommend that anybody that can go when they have them, they're usually the end of May,
first part
Or
of June.
first part of June.
first part of
Yeah.
June.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
it was
much.
June 1st, the 2nd, 3rd. It's really informative. I mean, as long as I've worked in preservation, I still get a lot out of going to those. So I wish I had brought the program, but I forgot it. So for you to look it over, but I'll try and remember to bring it next time. And Eloise, the staff went this time too, and I'm sure Ray's been to them in
Yeah, I've
the
been to 'em
past
before.
too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mary Jo, where's the next one going to be? Did they say?
they did. But I don't remember. It's in the southeast part of the state. I know because they try to have it in different areas. I'm thinking Iowa City, but I'm not sure. I don't remember. Got too much in my mind.
But that's another advantage that as a certified local government, a CLG, we do have other information and also opportunities that are
Yeah.
helpful as a commission.
Yeah, well, in the city pays for you to go. I stayed in a lovely hotel and restored Warrior Hotel in Sioux City. It was gorgeous. It's really nice.
All right. Any other comments from the commission? No? All right. Next up is staff comments, right?
Yeah, along the line of education opportunities, I would encourage the commission to think about ideas you might have for educating the citizens of Ames preservation. You know, we do budget some funds, the council does for that, and we haven't had an education opportunity for citizens for a while, and it would be nice to bring another one on board and offer something maybe this fall.
In the past, they've done things like, there was a speaker brought in, they did a thing on historic tax credits
Mhm.
downtown and.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the last one we had was the tax
Was
credits
that-
downtown.
Mhm.
It was good.
Yeah, it was. Did the city help fund that, or was there
Paid
any
the speaker fee, I think, or the-
the speaker fee for that one?
or a little honorarium or something
Oh,
to the guy.
Yeah. Mhm. So anyway, be thinking about that.
Ideas
If you
for,
have some ideas
Yeah.
that we could pursue, that'd be
Mhm.
great.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Sounds good. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there anything else, or if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn if I need to.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.